It's time for Recipe of the Day. I tend to buy random salad dressings when they're on sale, like, they're like buy one, get one free or something. And I'll buy a few different ones to just have in the pantry for when I want to shake things up and have a different kind of salad dressing, So a couple months ago, I got a bottle of French dressing and it sat in the pantry for a bit. And then I finally opened it. I bought it because I remember liking French dressing when I was in my 20s. But when I tasted this one, it was a lot sweeter than I remembered it. And so I decided to try making a homemade version that wouldn't be as sweet. And really, with any kind of homemade dressing or so many other things that could be store-bought that you make homemade, you can then change them up to suit your taste a little bit, which I have done here. I've used hot Hungarian paprika instead of regular paprika just for that little bit of heat. So I'll tell you how to make this in a second. First, what is French dressing? It's probably not surprising to you that it is not actually French. It's an American thing. It is an oil-based dressing usually, although quite often it is a creamy French dressing. And so it can have something like mayonnaise in it to add that extra creaminess. It's quite similar to Catalina dressing, but Catalina is usually thinner and brighter red because it has a higher ketchup or tomato-based component. Okay, so how do you make this? It is easiest to do in some kind of blender because you're going to drizzle in some oil and hope that it emulsifies, which is easier in the blender. Having said that, because there is the mayonnaise in here, which is already that emulsification, it is easier than you might think to just do it with a spoon or a whisk in a bowl, so you can totally do that as well. So what you're going to do is into your bowl or your blender, you're putting a 1/4 cup of mayonnaise, a 1/4 cup of ketchup, 2 tablespoons of cider vinegar, and then the recipe calls for a 1/4 cup of granulated sugar, but you could do less first and see if you like it less sweet, because I prefer it less sweet. And then it's the tablespoon of that hot Hungarian paprika, or you could use plain paprika. You can use smoked paprika, but don't use very much. If you're going to use some smoked paprika, a tablespoon of that is going to be way too overpowering. Just do like a 1/4 teaspoon of smoked paprika, and then the rest, either the hot or the plain. And then a 1/4 teaspoon of garlic powder, a 1/4 teaspoon of onion powder, a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and 1/8 of a teaspoon of black pepper. Mix that together well. And then while stirring or blending in your blender, you're going to slowly stream in a 1/2 cup of neutral flavored oil. So like a vegetable oil or a grapeseed oil. You could do olive oil if you wanted to, but you don't need to. There's a lot of other flavor going on here. You don't necessarily want a flavorful oil. So you are slowly streaming that in 1/2 cup of oil into the rest while blending or stirring. And that is it. As with a lot of these sorts of recipes, putting it in the fridge for even just an hour so that the flavors can all kind of blend and hang out is going to make it better, but it's going to be good right off the bat as well. French dressing is delicious on green salads. It also is a nice sandwich spread, kind of the way how like Russian dressing, Thousand Island, they're used on like burgers, Reubens, that kind of thing. It kind of has some of those similar characteristics, and that's a nice thing to try. And if you like it, you could even do a higher ratio of the mayonnaise and ketchup to the oil just to try and make it like a thicker spread, right? Okay, I will put the link to this recipe in the show notes for this podcast episode, or you can head to cookthestory.com/ROTD and get it there. Everything there is arranged by date, so it's helpful to know that today is October 8th of 2024. You can also get the link in our Facebook group. I post the recipe of the day link every single day in that group, and you can always find what I'm talking about, get great ideas for what to make that day, ask questions, all of that. The group is at facebook.com/groups/recipeotd. I'm Christine Pittman from cookthestory.com, thecookful.com, the all-new chicken cookbook, and from this podcast, Recipe of the Day. I hope you have a great day. Let's get cooking.